Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying at the stage one. Once again, I'm Eva Johansson. I'm a journalist, and I'm really thrilled to be here because security is not my theme and topic in everyday life, so I'm really interested in hearing what's new, because this is the stage where we're going to discuss a lot of events. But the first speaker is going to speak on the trends in the cross-border organized crime in the Baltic States. And he is the head of the International Cooperation Department of the main Criminal Police Department of State Police of Latvia. And he has really an extensive experience in combating organizing crime in Latvia and also beyond. Please join me on the stage, Edgars Strautmanis. Applause. And the stage is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Labrīt, tere, labas rītas. It is my sincere pleasure and privilege to be here among the group of other speakers and heads of agencies here from Latvia, and also private sector representatives from the Baltics. I will try to entertain you for the best part of around 30 to 35 minutes maybe on topic that is of importance for European Union, not only for European Union, that is on trends and threats of organized crime. There will be no fancy slides, there will be no fancy transitions from slide to slide, there will be no major revelations as to what the impact of organized crime is. So I hope I'm not disappointing the majority of you who expected today that you will receive answers to all questions how law enforcement and judiciary and private sector could better contribute and eradicate the organized crime. But I hope that will not put you off from enjoying the presentation and also the day's events. Before I continue, if you feel that you have a question or a comment or a remark, I feel absolutely fine that you interrupt me if there is a microphone available for the audience. Just ask anyone, and I'll be happy to answer on the spot. And if you believe that there should be a discussion on some points or ideas, absolutely feel free to interrupt me, and I'll be happy to discuss that with you. This is me, a bit about me. I've been in law enforcement for 20 years. I am in the position of the head of the International Cooperation Department since May last year. Prior to that, I had the privilege and an honor. I served as a Latvian State Police liaison officer at the Embassy of Latvia in London for good 6 years. I also attended similar conferences whilst my service time in United Kingdom, and I can only attest that such events are important as for law enforcement and as for the private sector. So it's great to see events of that scale happening here in Latvia as well, and be part of that, not only as a participant but as a speaker. Shortly and really briefly, there will be no major organograms on, but where we are, what our department does. We are part of Central Criminal Police Department. There are other departments, as you can see. We are integral part of Central Criminal Police. Our main task is coordination and ensuring information exchange and assistance in investigations throughout cooperation within International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, then European Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation, Europol. We are also responsible for exchanging data and information related to alerts in Schengen Information System. And fourth task of the department is we are considered a competent judicial authority in terms of providing assistance in European investigating orders and mutual legal assistance requests from foreign countries. It is a wide area of responsibility. It is a very interesting and very exciting area of cooperation. So I think these factors have contributed to that I am in the service still after 20 odd years being in the police. To note on International Criminal Police Organization, which is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year, Latvia as a state was one of the initiators of the establishment of the International Criminal Police Organization back in 1923. So cooperation on international scale for Latvia's law enforcement or police at that time goes in 100 years history. For Europol, as a younger, newer organization within Europe, we are this year marking 30 years since Latvia as a country joined then European framework for cooperation within Europol. So those are quite important landmarks for the state police in Latvia. A bit on the agencies that I represent, I have to touch upon the priorities and the main tasks of the state police. The tasks are on the screen. They have been in public domain, also from the Chief Commissioner, Mr. Rooks. So the state police is planning and is doing a lot to manage the resources effectively. The state police will address the issue of gaining higher public trust from society. In addition to those strategic tasks, the state police has also identified and established a strategy for prevention and combating crime in 2023 and then years beyond. They include threats to interests of the economy, high-tech offenses, narcotic and psychotropic substances, fight against environmental crimes, and major part of the operation and activity of the state police of Latvia is aimed at disrupting serious and organized crime. We are a relatively small agency. We are around 5,000 officers and 900 employees. In terms of criminality in Latvia, the statistics show that since 2006, the number of crimes registered in the country has decreased considerably. If you just look at the numbers, it's around 62,000 criminal offenses registered in 2006, and then around 33,000 criminal offenses registered in 2020. It doesn't mean by any merit that the complexity of investigations has decreased or that the police is less involved in criminal investigations and ensuring public order. Criminality has developed regrettably as well, and sometimes in different forums, speakers are saying that organized criminality is half a step or even a step before the law enforcement. We'll see if that is true in some of slides of my presentation. The priorities for the state police for the years to come. It's not in a particular hierarchical order, but reasonably organized crime, including international organized criminality that commits crimes against property and involvement of mobile organized crime groups, has been on priorities for the state police for considerable amounts of years. Just to continue on priorities, as cybercrime and criminality in cyber environment has expanded throughout the years. Last year, the state police established a separate department that is specializing in cybercrime investigation and prevention, cybercrime investigation department. There are strategic and operational plans for development of capabilities of cybercrime investigation department, and this is where area where investigation and prevention of criminality will also be prioritized for the next years. On criminality on international scale and organized crime, there is EU strategy that was adopted in 2021 and that runs up until 2025 to tackle organized crime. Organized criminality has been a topic since middle of 1990s. And European Union has paid particular attention to finding ways to coordinate measures against organized crime effectively. There have been several programs, there have been several attempts since late 1999 with the Tampere program, which was the first multi-annual strategic objective program for EU in the field of justice and home affairs. After that, presidency countries of the EU had established other multi-annual programs related to cooperation in justice and home affairs, like 2004 Hague program, then followed by 2009 Stockholm program, and then in 2015 EU Agenda on Security, and then the recent one, European Union Security Union Strategy of 2020. What is important about the European Union strategy to tackle organized crime is that it is the first dedicated strategy since the entry into force of the Lisbon Treaty in December 2009. So that can be considered as a crucial step for EU law enforcement and EU lawmakers to enforce more of our abilities to fight organized crime. Organized criminality nowadays is an international enterprise. Organized criminality has no judicial boundaries. Organized criminality exploits, regrettably to a certain extent, freedom of movement of goods and persons and services that we all enjoy in European Union. But organized criminality does not limit itself to just European Union countries. It has connections and it has impacts throughout the world. So not only just EU, but also worldwide measures are needed to fight that phenomenon successfully. Organized criminality groups are present across all EU member states. That has been acknowledged by EU lawmakers and law enforcement agencies. Organized criminality is a very successful networked environment. We are here today to establish and promote our networks. Regrettably, organized criminality is doing on a constant basis, on a daily basis, day and night, how impossible that might seem for an ordinary individual. Organized criminality is systematic and it is driven by a profit-oriented focus. What drives organized criminality is profit and possibility to invest that profit into more organized criminality, and then potentially invest that profit in corruptive mechanisms so you can gain more profit. It is also acknowledged that 65% of the criminal groups that are identified as active in EU member states, that they consist of members of multiple nationalities. We don't talk in law enforcement anymore about some segmented groups of individuals by certain nationality who are just isolated groups and then they work in isolated areas or isolated geographical regions. Members of different nationalities and holders of different passports participate in activities of organized criminal groups. So what does EU and law enforcement has as an answer to activities of organized criminality? First of all, there have been recent initiatives by the EU legislators and lawmakers to provide more resources and provide more room for activity for European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation, that is Europol. There are, on a four-year basis, European Union prepares serious and organized crime threat assessment. That is the basis for law enforcement in European Union to identify key threats and look for a way forward how to successfully combat that type of crime. The role of Europol is not to be underestimated, and with recent adopted legislative acts in European Union, the intention is to build on capacity of Europol and make Europol the most important EU criminal information hub that will be able to support law enforcement and police cooperation and intelligence and information exchange. The EU SOCTA, as it is abbreviated, is a comprehensive organized crime threat analysis that identifies high priority crime areas, and the member states are the ones that are contributing to the SOCTA. The state police of Latvia also shares its contribution with Europol, and crucial intelligence and criminal information is reflected in serious and organized crime threat assessment. European Union is aiming and has been aiming for years for more coordinated operations, and one of the platforms that provides for more coordinated approach is Impact. European Union is very fond of doing abbreviations, and the abbreviation is there on the screen. It is European Multidisciplinary Platform Against Criminal Threats. Latvia is also contributing to activities in Impact, and the state police was part of an active participant of 15 priority areas in last years and for the years to come, 2022 and 2025. And Latvia actively participated in investigations in certain operational action plans in 22 in a number of investigations. As I briefly already touched upon, the EU lawmakers are aiming to reinforce the mandate of Europol. And one of the legislative initiatives that was adopted and entered into force last year, it enables Europol to cooperate effectively with private parties. There is no new set of rules in Europol's regulation. It is a very important step towards more closer cooperation of Europol with private sector, like yourselves. If prior to the changes in the regulation, Europol was dependent on basically national administrations to receive information that might be of relevance in criminal investigations and intelligence building, then with the changes in the regulation, there are provisions that allow for Europol to receive that information, if need be, directly from private sector, from companies. More importantly, that is in regard to receiving not just maybe strategical information, but also receiving personal data from private parties. And then through Europol cooperation mechanisms, that information is channeled down to competent law enforcement authorities in the corresponding countries. Europol is also building towards making its infrastructure available for personal data and criminal information exchange between member states and private parties. And it is obvious from serious and organized crime threat assessments from the latest and the previous ones that private parties are increasingly relevant in areas where they can assist law enforcement in preventing and countering, let's say, online, for example, online and offline crime, especially in investigations into child sexual exploitation, terrorism, and financial or organized crime. Briefly on priorities of European Union that have been set for years 2022 and 2025 in Impact's platform. High-risk criminal networks is one of the recent priorities, because European Union and Europol has identified that high-risk criminal networks pose the major threat to the safety of society in European Union. But other forms of crime, typical forms of crime, let's say more convenient forms of crime like fraud, migrant smuggling, firearms trafficking, organized property crimes, they are also on agenda for law enforcement agencies in European Union. The approach and the concept of impact provides for identification of EU priority crime threats, and further on builds on joint action to tackle them through a structured cooperation at EU level. Impact is a very well-functioning platform, and it provides for coordinated actions, and as we call it in law enforcement terminology, joint action days, where law enforcement of numerous European Union countries and also so-called third countries or cooperation partners of Europol contribute to practical investigations and carry out sometimes simultaneous investigations against organized crime on the same day. It is operational cooperation that is also in EU and beyond European Union. And what is also an important aspect in regard to impact is that there is a possibility to receive financial, operational, and strategic support from Europol. Member states and law enforcement agencies of member states of European Union are constantly in real-time exchange of intelligence and criminal information with Europol. Europol provides analysis of that criminal information and supports and coordinates what we call live operations that are primarily for the last years and for the years to come, concentrating on high-risk criminal networks that are affecting the European Union. Member states are also turning to Europol to seek innovative tools and tactics and techniques. But at the same time, law enforcement in European Union is also encouraged to make more extended use of already existing special law enforcement techniques that maybe are not deployed on a daily basis regularly. All those efforts are aimed at more concentrated and coordinated approach and activity by Europol and member states to fight organized criminality. One of the initiatives that has been also in public domain is member states are urged to make use of certain network possibilities that concentrates on fight against mafia-type organized crime groups. Member states and law enforcement agencies are benefiting from financial instruments that are available on the EU level for operational and investigative support, and they can target with that support their approach against high-risk criminal networks. EU member states and law enforcement agencies are encouraged to either establish or develop coordination structures at national level that can bring together and closer law enforcement and judiciary authorities that focus on tackling organized crime structures. Of course, there are drawbacks and there are some issues as it is in law enforcement cooperation, and not everything is functioning as good as it looks in programs or in strategic approaches. So the member states are responding to those challenges and looking forward to work more closely together as law enforcement and as judiciary. Coming to the conclusion part of my presentation. So what are threats to society in general by serious and organized crime? As I put it in one of the first slides, organized crime is international and without boundaries in its nature. Organized criminality is seeking involvement in the widest possible variety of criminal activities. Majority of criminal groups that are affecting also the Baltic countries are involved as in drugs trafficking, as in organized property crime, where major role is played by so-called mobile organized crime groups. Fraud that provides for financial resources for funding further criminal activities. Fraud includes customs, excise, and VAT fraud. Organized criminality is in no doubt behind organized migrant smuggling in European Union and beyond that, because that is a very lucrative and low-risk business. And there are certain areas worldwide where people are desperate to get to more safer areas, specifically in Europe. And organized criminality is exploiting that to their benefit. Trafficking in human beings included. Organized crime groups have grown throughout the years and they have become more sophisticated. Organized crime groups use strong and efficient communication systems. Law enforcement has been able to disrupt some of those communication systems, as maybe you have read in one or more press releases by Europol in recent years. But it doesn't mean that those are the only communication systems available to organized criminality, unfortunately. Organized criminality, unlike law enforcement, has possibilities for uninterrupted cooperation, as between groups, as between their members, and they do that across the borders. Law enforcement, though EU is an area of freedom of movement of goods and persons, is still to a certain extent bound by their judicial and legislative borders. So all previously mentioned legislative acts play a vital and important role in that law enforcement can be in their activities as uninterrupted as is organized criminality. Previously mentioned networked environment of organized criminality. they are on a systematical cooperation. Organized criminality doesn't stop with one crime area. They do it on a systematic basis, and they look for profits. Organized criminality is involved in ever more dynamic and complex criminal activities. Some of criminal activities that law enforcement is facing today, and also the state police and our colleagues in Lithuania and Estonia, were unheard of, let's say, 10 years ago. With rise and sometimes fall of cryptocurrencies and similar financial means, organized criminality is exploiting these areas as well. So law enforcement has to keep up with those new developments and technologies, and also be able to respond within their judicial and legislative possibilities. So law enforcement, to a certain extent, can also learn from private sector how private sector is addressing security concerns, and law enforcement and private sector definitely can learn from each other how better we can cooperate in those newly emerging areas where the threat is to the whole of the society. Organized criminality is very able and very professional in adapting and evolving. Some groups organized, some organized crime groups are specializing in, let's call them particular criminal markets. But the recent trends and serious organized crime threat assessment also shows that organized criminality is becoming what we call polycriminal. Organized crime groups are polycriminal. They don't limit themselves to just one aspect of criminal activity. And why is that? Again, it is profit-driven. If you can gain high profits from low-profile crime or low-risk crime as trafficking in tobacco products, and then you can invest that to finance your expansion into drugs trafficking, organized criminality will exploit that, and they are exploiting that. Basically, one criminal activity of organized crime group finances their expansion into other crime areas, and they don't stop just with other crime areas. Again, alluded to that aspect before, mobility of criminality, mobility of organized crime groups. They are very apt at using fraudulent documents to travel unnoticed to law enforcement. A number of organized crime groups have expanded that they are providing their criminal services and active as in the countries of their origin, where they hold their passports, that they are citizens of. They are active in transit countries, and they are active in the countries of destination. Organized criminality does not stop at one particular border and limit itself to criminal activities there. Law enforcement considers that a number of significant criminal groups are considered as reliable and professional. They are reliable and professional in their area of activity. One criminal group considers the other criminal group that they are trusted enough to be part of their cooperation network. So the organized criminal groups establish those contacts and cooperate within other criminal networks, and that helps them in assisting and reaching different criminal arrangements. Organized criminality has been exploiting and will be exploiting possibilities to invest and be involved in legal businesses, again, to facilitate their criminal activities and then launder the criminal proceeds from those criminal activities. Not so long ago, law enforcement was also relatively surprised throughout the EU Union that organized crime groups were becoming more and more effective in their mutual cooperation because criminal groups started providing services for each other. Where there used to be confrontations and rivalries, criminal groups started providing services to each other. One criminal group is receiving services and in return providing goods, and vice versa. The receiving criminal group would deliver services to other criminal group and then receive other goods for the for the other criminal organized criminal group. Organized crime is exploiting vulnerabilities and seeking direct access to so-called experts in various areas. They are in real life, they are experts. They are experts, let's say, in production of tobacco products. They are chemists. They are tax experts and money laundering experts. So law enforcement is paying attention to how better tackle those aspects of organized criminality as well. Again, alluded to that already previously. Organized criminality is investing their criminal proceeds that can be used for sustained or expanded activities. Organized criminality would purchase vehicles, they would purchase communication systems, they would purchase accommodations, they would rent accommodations for legal businesses and use that as front for their criminal activities. Investment in legal businesses is across the sectors. Organized criminality invests their laundered monies in real estate and construction to transportation companies or hospitality areas. Organized crime with expansion and control of certain activities is able to launder the legal assets and then maximize their criminal profits that are, again, invested in their organized criminal activities. To conclude, the phenomenon of organized criminality is worldwide, and that is constantly evolving. Law enforcement and lawmakers are bound to identify new trends, and swift reaction to new developments in organized criminality are crucial. EU member states and law enforcement are aiming that their future collective action will be against high priority crimes, high-risk criminal networks. The activities will be aimed at disruption of those criminal structures. Significant effort will be made to crack down on their criminal finances. If you limit organized criminality of their possibility to invest their criminal finances in their activities, you provide a major blow to their ability to expand. Also on the forefront in the future will be a possibility of law enforcement to tackle use of new technologies that organized criminality is expanding. Role will also be played by legislators, that reinforcement of existing instruments does not remain only as reinforcement for the sake of reinforcement. Support to cross-border cooperation and widest possible use of already established international cooperation mechanisms will be and is of importance. Law enforcement and judicial authorities have to systematically approach and cross-check if investigations in cross-border criminal cases and investigations where international links are established relate to organized crime cases, and if those organized crime cases can be brought to justice more successfully. I think I have saved 1 minute and 30 seconds, and I thank you for your patience in following me in these presentations. And as I said at the start of my presentation, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that. And thank you for your attention once again.